When I married David, I didn't know how many layers he had underneath his quiet, calm surface. We had been together for 3 years before we tied the knot, and during those 3 years, he was the stable force in my otherwise chaotic world. I had just finished graduate school when we met, my life scattered between dreams I hadn't yet achieved and memories I was still learning to let go of. He walked into my life like a steady breeze, never pushing too hard, always present, always kind. He wasn't flashy or overly romantic in the traditional sense, but he showed up again and again when it mattered. We moved into a modest house on the outskirts of Raleigh, North Carolina. The neighborhood was quiet, lined with maple trees that exploded in reds and golds during fall. It was the kind of place where people waved at each other from their driveways, and kids rode their bikes until the streetlights came on. David had grown up in a small town, and this felt just right to him. To me, it was the first time I truly slowed down. Our bedroom was the only space we completely remodeled together. We painted the walls a soft, cool gray, added sheer curtains that fluttered with the breeze, and placed a big cozy armchair near the window where I liked to read. David, being the practical one, made sure the mattress was orthopedic and the lighting was soft enough to wind down in. It was our sanctuary, our calm in the storm. It was in that room that I truly learned the depth of love. One night, after a long week of work, I came home exhausted. I had been running on fumes, deadlines, and way too much coffee. David had cooked dinner, grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, and his homemade lemon butter sauce. We ate mostly in silence, the kind that only comes with comfort. When I finally changed into my pajamas and collapsed onto the bed, I didn't even have the energy to make conversation. But David came in, pulled the covers up, and gently kissed my forehead. "You've been carrying too much," he said, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Let me help carry it with you." That was David. He never asked for grand gestures. He wasn't the kind to buy lavish gifts or post paragraphs on social media about our love. But he knew how to show it in the smallest ways, in acts that often went unnoticed to others, but meant the world to me. That night, he rubbed my feet as I drifted to sleep, whispering stories from his childhood to soothe me. He always knew the right story to tell, the perfect tone of voice to comfort me. Our bedroom became the place where we unpacked the world each night, our worries, dreams, plans, and fears. Some nights, we just lay there, watching shadows play on the ceiling while holding hands, not needing words at all. Other nights, we would talk for hours, about everything from politics to what kind of dog we wanted to adopt someday. It was in those quiet, vulnerable conversations that I realized how deep our connection ran. One evening, after a particularly emotional conversation with my estranged mother, I broke down. I hadn't spoken to her in years, and suddenly, she called, reopening wounds I thought I had buried. David held me as I cried, letting me sob into his chest without rushing me to stop or offering shallow advice. When I had no more tears left, he didn't try to fix it. He just whispered, "I'm here. Always here." And he was. It wasn't always heavy. There were moments of laughter that echoed off the bedroom walls. Like the time he tried to do a yoga pose with me and fell flat on his face, or when he danced in nothing but socks and boxers to 90s pop music to cheer me up. We played board games on the bed, had pillow fights like teenagers, and made up silly nicknames for each other. It was joyful, ridiculous, and perfect. One snowy Saturday morning, we stayed in bed till noon, drinking coffee, tangled in each other's arms under the warmth of 3 layers of blankets. Outside, the world was quiet under a thick blanket of snow, but our room was filled with the quiet energy of love that didn't need to be loud to be heard. I remember one night in particular that will always stay with me. It was the anniversary of the day we first met. David had taken the day off work, and when I came home, he had transformed the bedroom. Candles flickered on the nightstands, soft music played in the background, and a photo album lay open on the bed. Each page was filled with memories, movie ticket stubs, dried flowers from our first trip to Asheville, goofy selfies, and little notes we had written each other over the years. I didn't even know he had kept most of it. He looked at me and said, "Every memory in here led us back to this room, this home, this love." We didn't even go out that night. We stayed in our sanctuary, reminiscing, laughing, crying a little. We wrapped ourselves in each other's arms and shared quiet moments only we could understand. It was more romantic than any dinner or getaway. It wasn't just the good times, though. There were moments of frustration, times when we argued, misunderstood each other, or simply needed space. But what made our bond stronger was how we handled those moments. David never raised his voice. When I needed time, he gave it. When he felt unheard, he gently voiced it. We always returned to the bedroom not to ignore the issues but to face them together, side by side. That room wasn't just a place to sleep, it was a place to heal, to reconnect. Years passed, and life changed. Careers evolved, loved ones passed, new chapters began. But the bedroom remained the heart of our marriage. It became the place where we found each other again after long days, where we celebrated promotions and mourned losses. When I miscarried our first child, it was in that room where David held me all night, reading poetry until I fell asleep. He never once told me to move on, he moved through the pain with me. Eventually, we welcomed our daughter, Claire. And though the bedroom grew noisier with baby cries and late-night feedings, it only deepened the intimacy between us. We'd take turns rocking her to sleep, whispering promises of a safe, loving home. When she was finally asleep, David and I would collapse into bed, utterly exhausted but grateful. We still found those small, precious moments to hold hands in the dark, to whisper I love you even when the day had drained us. As Claire grew older, our lives became even more hectic. School runs, work travel, birthday parties, it all piled up. But every night, without fail, David made sure we had time together. Sometimes it was just 10 minutes, a back rub, or a cup of tea shared in silence. But it was always enough. It was always what we needed. Now, years later, I sit in that same armchair by the bedroom window, watching David play with Claire in the yard. The room has aged with us, new paint, different furniture, a few more creaks in the floor. But the energy remains the same. Warm. Safe. Full of memories that shaped our story. People often ask me what makes a marriage last. They expect answers like communication or trust, and while those are certainly true, I always say, it's what you build in the quiet moments. In the everyday. In the bedroom, when no one else is watching. Because that's where love truly lives, not in grand gestures or social media declarations, but in the gentle way someone touches your hand, the way they listen, the way they simply stay. And David, he stayed. Through everything. And that, to me, will always be the best story our bedroom ever told.